Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another video for The Division. Now if you missed last week's video, then I went down a bit of a speculative path and spoke about what I expected to see from The Division at E3, when I think we might get a playable alpha or beta, and when I think the game will release. So if you want to see what I thought, then check that video out on the channel after you finish this one. However, in today's video, I am getting back on track and speaking about another game related topic, and this time I'm talking about survival. So, the topic of survival is naturally quite a broad one. Am I referring to survival in day-to-day combat, survival from the Division's warring factions like the Cleaners, or survival from the virus that plagues the city of New York? The answer is none of those. I want to talk about survival from the start of the game. This is a topic I glossed over in my Everything We Know video I made last year, but I wanted to drill down into it in a bit more detail in light of a more recent video I made. At the start of the game, it has been stated that we will be in possession of 72 hours worth of supplies. This will include food, water, medpacks, ammunition, weapons, supposedly some upgrade materials, etc. Beyond that point, we're on our own. We have to fend for ourselves. Now it is worth noting that The Division is not a survival game akin to that of DayZ, meaning that while you do need to fend for yourself and survive, you won't find yourself dying of starvation should you run out of food, or anything like that. That being said, the game does take place in a city in the wake of a devastating virus, meaning that you won't exactly be walking down to your local convenience store to buy some water and a pack of bullets. As you can see from the 2013 gameplay, you will find things like food and water dotted around ready for you to collect, and obviously weapons, and then I'd imagine certain crafting / upgrade components too will be collected in the open world. We also know, thanks to the First Division podcast, that the game features hub zones, where you'll encounter other players, and while we have yet to encounter those and see them in action, I speculated that we'd likely encounter NPCs in those spaces too, so that we can exchange items and potentially stock up if we're low. That was, of course, until I made my video on bases and upgrading those bases, at which point it now seems far more likely that those NPCs I expected to see in the hubs will more likely reside in your own personal bases. If you remember this scene, when we got a glimpse at the Midtown South base of operations, you'll remember that among other things, it has a medical option which, in this particular scene, is not active. It could be that the medical portion of the base is instead tied to curing the city of the virus, and by having it functional in a particular district, you begin to decontaminate a particular zone. Or it could be that you return here if you die, or maybe if you are heavily wounded. It's also worth noting that while you will find food and water dotted around the world, that is not actually used to keep you alive. See, while The Division is a survival game, as mentioned, it's more survival based on the setting and the conditions you are in, as opposed to physically scavenging to keep yourself alive. Food and water will instead be used as a valuable resource for trading. When you think in a scenario such as this, when the city is in turmoil, money will have little value if shops are hardly up and running. Instead, items like food and water become the currency, and would likely be used to trade for parts you might need to, say, upgrade your weapons. The game also has medpacks, but again, these appear to be used to cure certain conditions, or if you've come in contact with the virus, as opposed to actually being used to replenish your health. So as you can begin to see, the concept of survival is indeed an interesting one. Scavenging is key. Rummaging around looking for supplies that will come in handy later on is where the RPG elements begin to work their way in. And how you use those supplies, well, that is how you will survive. Survival and RPG blending into one. So, with all of that said and done, just make sure that when you do eventually get around to playing the game and you do begin, make those first 72 hours count, because once you're out, it looks like it's going to be a pretty harsh world out there. And with that, that brings me to the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, hopefully you learned something new, and thank you very much for watching. Take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.